Never gets transmitted to the inner ear. So it requires placing a pressure equalizing tube in the eardrum in order to be able to use this. That's a procedure that is done in the office under local anesthesia.
Right now what I'm getting in my ear is a bump, 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 bump. I can hear it and I can feel it. And as that is occurring, the overpressure that's put on that whole system is forcing this excess liquid out. I'm supposed to do this 3 times a day, and on days when I'm not feeling pretty good or when my hearing is really muffled, up to 4 times.
There have been a number of articles in our literature suggesting that it's quite beneficial in 80 or more % of the patients who use it.
There are more invasive and surgical treatments for Meniere's disease, but this is only an option for a very small % of patients.
In the patients who have untreated Meniere's, every episode you have, some of the hearing loss is permanent, so you will end up with a deaf ear far sooner than someone who treats it.
Another popular misconception we asked our experts about involves hearing loss. Fact or fiction? Do hearing aids really work?
I think there's a lot of bad press about hearing aids, and maybe rightfully so. Maybe there have been so many patients who've had bad experiences that maybe it's very justified. But today, it's really sort of sad if patients don't get the help they need because they think hearing aids won't work, because they will. Most patients can be helped with hearing aids. The milder the hearing loss, the better the outcome, and that's simply because the brain hasn't been deprived of sound for such a long time. The more severe a hearing loss is, the more likely the patient is going to have some of their expectations altered.
And many people think there's a stigma attached to using hearing aids.
There is an issue of vanity when it comes to hearing aids. Hearing aids are associated with getting older because it is a condition of older age, and so some patients aren't excited about the prospect of hearing aids. What we tell our patients is that you're going to look a lot older not hearing people than you ever would wearing a hearing aid.
Experts agree that the most common and potentially harmful misconception about hearing is that hearing loss is an embarrassing and inevitable part of aging.
The longer you don't do something about the volume, the more the brain kind of goes on retirement. The time to get the hearing aid was when you were beginning to turn the TV up, because a hearing aid will of course let you hear lots of environmental sound that you're not normally hearing. Your brain will have a chance to exercise on that sound. It will maintain its ability to discriminate sound. So you're far better off getting a hearing aid earlier rather than later.
I don't think necessarily patients have to lose their hearing as they get older. I think many will. I think that we're coming up with new therapies and new treatments, and we're understanding much more about hearing loss. So I think in the future it may be non-existent. So as far as where research is headed, I think that we will see the day when patients no longer suffer from hearing loss.
Hearing loss is one of the most common complaints of aging. In fact, 1 in 3 people over the age of 60 has hearing loss. Hearing problems can have a dramatic impact on a person's life, making it hard to hear car horns, phones, doorbells, even alarms. It can be difficult to understand a doctor's advice or understand conversations with friends and family. Because of all this, hearing loss can be frustrating, embarrassing, and even dangerous. But there are tools to help you cope.
You feel embarrassed. Don't be embarrassed about it.
A childhood illness caused Carl Eason's hearing loss. Today, hearing aids and lip reading enable him to cope with his near deafness, but he admits it's been far from perfect.
All my life, I was never able to hear birds chirping. Son had asked me, can you hear the wind rustling through the trees? No, the only time that I can hear wind, I had to ask somebody what was that noise. He said it's just the air moving around. And it was something that I never experienced.
Carl and Deborah have been married for a year. and together they run a chapter of the national organization called Self-Help for Hard of Hearing People. Their mission is to open the world of communication for people with hearing loss through information, education, advocacy, and support. Deborah offers important advice for friends and family of people with hearing loss.